Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting for the City of San Juan at 6 p.m. May we rise for invocation? Mr. Arjona, can you lead us in the invocation, please?
Bow our heads. Dear Lord, we thank you for allowing us to be here today. And as we gather here, we pray for those less fortunate. We also pray and ask that this meeting is successful and blessed. Guide us, give us wisdom concerning the issues that we face. Lord, we give you the glory for what we accomplished, and it's always your name we pray. Amen.
Flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May be seated. Under public comments, I have Connie Arroyo.
The first item on the agenda, it's presentations. We have Lineberger, Golden Blair, Sampson, delinquent tax report. Mr. Cano, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Arjona. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Just for the record, Michael Cano, partner with the Linebarger firm, and as you know, we're your delinquent tax attorneys, and we're tasked with collecting all the outstanding taxes that are not collected by Mr. Paul Villarreal, your tax collector. At the time that we submitted this report, I was hoping to have the final September numbers from Mr. Villarreal's office to do the entire fiscal year report, but we didn't have those by the time we submitted the report. So this, what you have in the packet is an 11-month report, but I do now have the September numbers. And the way it works is it usually takes Mr. Paul Villarreal a couple of weeks to certify the final collection number, so that's why there's always a little delay. I'll try to be as brief as possible, but since this is an annual report, I'm going to kind of slow down and explain some larger picture items so you'll have a better understanding of what's going on with your delinquent taxes here in the city of San Juan. Obviously, we try to contact all your taxpayers who have a delinquency with the city. We reach out to them by mail, by telephone, and you'll see on page 3 of our report, which is up on the screen, that we actually visit with your taxpayers at their homes as well. You'll see that this past fiscal year, we actually visited with over 300 families. Those are what we call property inspections. You'll see on the left side. There on the bottom, you'll see that when it becomes necessary, we do file lawsuits. We filed just over 180 lawsuits this past year for $466,000. We disposed of some, which means they were paid. We took some judgments, did some tax warrants, and as of this last month, we represent the city in nearly 200 cases, seeking just over $500,000, which basically means I'm in court every week of the year trying to collect taxes for the city of San Juan. On the following page, you'll see that sometimes it does become necessary that we foreclose on properties, and you'll see me here pretty often getting the city's approval on some of these tax sale properties. And I just want to slow down here and say that we're very proud that we have not had to displace any families from their homes. Most, if not all, of the properties that we sell are non-homestead designated properties. Basically means they're empty, empty lots, vacant land, abandoned homes, and that kind of stuff. So we work very close with all the different municipalities within the county. We try to identify the eyesore properties within a community, and those are the ones that we really use a tax foreclosure process for. Now, I'll tell you that most of your property owners who live in a home, and it's a designated homestead, they realize they have to pay taxes, and they'll come in our office and we'll work out payment agreements with them. We do not use the foreclosure process to displace families from their homes. I just want to make that very clear. The tax foreclosure process is actually a very beneficial process because it allows us an additional tool to rehab some of these older properties that are not being taken care of. Obviously, you have the condemnation process, then you have the tax foreclosure process available to you. Now, really, on the next page is really the bulk of what we do, which is collect money for the city. What I did here is I went ahead and looked back 4 years, because I think it's important to look at the overall trajectory of the collections for the city of San Juan. You'll see that back in 2014-15, we represented the city of San Juan, and we collected just over $400,000. And really what's more important to delinquent tax attorneys is we look at our collection rate, because the amount of money available for us to collect varies every year. So we would look at is the percentage. How much did we collect of what's available to collect from? And you'll see that back 4 years ago, we collected $409,000 of the number on the very bottom, the $1,486,000. That's the amount, the 1.4 on the very bottom, and it's pretty consistent across all these years. That's the amount of delinquent taxes owed to the city. Now, I'll caution you, I wish we could collect all of that, but it's not that easy, because this includes everybody who has over 65 exemptions, tax deferrals, people who are in bankruptcy. So a lot of that $1.4 million is actually uncollectible. It's still recognized on the books as a delinquent tax, but for some reason we may not be able to go after it. But that also includes that which we can go after. So basically 4 years ago we collected, 27.5% of what was available to collect from. And again, this is how we grade ourselves as delinquent tax attorneys. Now, the following year of 2015-16, it was an unusual year because the administration at that time used a different tax, collection firm to do their work. We actually represented the city for the first 6 months of that fiscal year, And then in March of 2016, a different competitor took over the collections for that year, and you'll see that there was a significant drop in collections for the city of San Juan. In the following year, and again, it's still in that brown, that's a year, 2016-17, we did not collect for the city of San Juan at all. We had no involvement that fiscal year, and you'll see that that other firm managed to increase their collections a small amount, but they were up at 23.77%. Now, fortunate for us, and I believe for the city, back in August of 2017, the city of San Juan decided to hire our firm back, and since then, and we started collecting that very first month of 2017-18 fiscal year, so we were able to collect the entire fiscal year ourselves this last year, and we're not quite back to where we were when the city had left us, but we're pretty close, and we're pretty proud of our achievement, and that we've gotten the collections back up to 26.24%. Now, that's just the base amount of taxes we collected, Mayor. We also collect the penalty and interest, which was an additional $177,000. So we collected just over $566,000 for the city of San Juan. That $566,000 we turned over to the city, 100% of it. What we charge is 15% in attorney's fees, and that only gets charged to your taxpayers who pay late, and we only get paid. We actually collect that money from those delinquent taxpayers. Now, again, I don't want to bore y'all with details and with numbers, but I'll just be very quick, and because I think this is something that you should be very proud of. This last year, 95% of your taxpayers here in the city of San Juan paid their taxes on time. So the city of San Juan levied, I want to say, a little over $7.1 million in current taxes. In other words, the city sent out tax bills for just over $7.1 million. Of that 7.1, 95% of your citizens paid their taxes on time, which resulted in $6.7 million worth of collections by Paul Villarreal's office. Now, what he did not collect, which is about $355,000, that got rolled over to the delinquent tax roll. That's where we kick in. So again, I'm just making this distinction so you know that really the bulk of your money is collected by Mr. Villarreal's office, and we try to collect that 5% that's not collected from him. And I'm very proud to say that the 95% of your taxpayers who pay their tax on time, none of their hard-earned money ever goes to pay our fees. We only charge those who pay late, and we only collect once we actually get paid. And again, that's a 15% fee, which is standard across our industry. And again, one last thing I want to talk about that's not on this chart is I think the biggest benefit to the city of San Juan taxpayers, and that is for many years before the change back in 14-15, we represented the city of San Juan as well as PSJ ISD, Hidalgo County, South Texas ISD, and South Texas College. Now, the reason this is very important is because for those of us who remember the way appraisals used to work in taxation many, many years ago, every tax office, every municipality had its own tax office. The city had their own tax collector, the school had their own tax collector, the county had their own tax collector, and every tax office would actually appraise each property individually. So we had different appraisals by every different taxing entities, which was a nightmare, because someone may say your house was worth, more than the other ones. So that's when we created, or the state created, the appraisal district. Now we have one uniform appraised value for your home, and then you can protest. Everybody knows how that works. And then what happened also a few years back is a lot of the taxing entities across the state started to consolidate their tax operations with the local counties. The city of San Juan did this many years ago. And the reason why you all did this was, one, it saves you money, but two, it makes it a lot easier for the taxpayer, because the taxpayer gets one appraisal every year. They get one tax bill here in the city of San Juan. That includes your taxes for the city, PSJ ISD, Hidalgo County, South Texas ISD, South Texas College. And it just, again, you're doing this not only because it's more effective and efficient to get one bill, it's actually cheaper for the city. Now, the same mindset, I think, should apply to the delinquent tax attorneys. But again, as an entity, you can always choose to pick whichever tax firm you want. And I'll tell you that we're very, we take a lot of pride in that we've been chosen by PSJ ISD, Hidalgo County, South Texas ISD, and South Texas College to collect our taxes. So what happened is when the city of San Juan migrated to a different collection firm a couple of years ago, it created somewhat of a nightmare for your taxpayers, because they already had payment arrangements with our firm, and they were used to making their payments every month. Let's say we had an arrangement where they were paying $300 a month, and as long as they pay those $300 a month, their lawsuit was not going to continue, or they're not going to be foreclosed on. What happened after that is when a second firm got involved collecting just for the city of San Juan, that they still had to make that payment with my office because they have a written agreement for my office, and I'm still collecting for all the other taxing entities, is they now had to pay a second payment to a second firm. And for a lot of these families, they really couldn't do that. So it really created a lot of problems for your taxpayers, and there was no net benefit. It wasn't really helping the taxpayers any, obviously, and it wasn't helping the city. You weren't realizing an increased amount of collections in doing that. So since the city has come back to our firm, I want to believe that obviously it's been good for us. I mean, we'll always welcome the business. I think the numbers speak for themselves, Mayor. You know, it's obviously a benefit to the city. We're collecting more money than our predecessor did. But really what I want to reiterate to you, Mayor, is that it was really in the best interest of the taxpayers, because just like they get one tax bill, they get one appraisal, they go to one delinquent tax firm, they resolve their delinquency with us, you know, they reach an agreement with us, hacen un acuerdo, you know, hacen sus paguitos cada mes. You know, a lot of these people can't pay the full amount, but they know, hey, if I pay my $350 a month, I can sleep well at night, that I'm not going to get foreclosed on. I don't have two competing firms trying to sue me. So again, I want to thank you for that, not only on behalf of our firm for allowing us to represent the city, but I can tell you, I deal with your taxpayers every day, Mayor, and I can tell you that they sleep much better knowing that they have their payment arrangements in place, and it's just much easier for them. So, and again, really this is a non-action item, Mayor, it's just more of a presentation. We finished the year, I know we didn't have September amounts in this, I'll tell you that through September of 2018, we collected $389,000 in base tax, which gave us a collection rate of 27.13%. So again, we're very pleased with the work that we did this past fiscal year. We think we have the city on the right trajectory, and we can't thank you enough, and Mr. Juan enough, for giving us the opportunity to work with you.
There was an increase on September of 20.
There was an additional about $13,000 collected in base tax. So the collection for the city at the end of the fiscal year was 27.13. And again, that's the highest rate we've seen in the last few years. And obviously, 4 years ago, we were at 27.56. But I think this next year, we're poised to hopefully meet that, if not exceed it.
So under this collection right here, we're talking about specifically only delinquent taxes.
Only delinquent taxes, Mayor, that is correct. Okay. I'm only tasked with collecting that very small percentage that comes to us. And again, I give a lot of credit, and I'll tell you, I don't want to get too detailed, but if you look at the collection report coming from your current tax office, which is Paul Villarreal, this last fiscal year, they increased their current collections by a little over a percentage point. Doesn't seem like a whole lot, but when you're collecting 95%, that 1% is actually a lot. So, and what you have going on, Mayor, is every year, Paul Villarreal's office is getting better and better at collecting the current taxes. So the better he does, the less he leaves. You know, we like to say he doesn't leave as much meat on the bone for us over here at the back end, but it's really a benefit to the city. It means you're getting your money faster, you're getting it up front, and that means your taxpayers don't have to pay a penalty and an interest if they pay late. So we always strive to have Paul collect as much as he can, and there's a lot of legal reasons why some people go delinquent, and that's really where we come in and try to work with them. But again, on the current side, the city is collecting more today than it ever has in its history, and I'll tell you, less is rolling over to us, but we still manage to collect the same percentage, and you know, it forces us to get a little bit more creative in how we do our work, but that's a problem we welcome if it means that the city's getting their money sooner. Hopefully I've explained all that without getting too convoluted.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Cano at this time?
No, it's good report, you know, but at the end of the day, we still represent the delinquent taxpayer, and we have to be out there and shopping, make sure, because you know that the cap on delinquent is 20, and that's the cap, even though you charge 15. So we always have to do diligent and speak also for the side of the taxpayer, because that's who puts us here and that's who we represent. And if they're delinquent, sometimes they're going through hard times, and we got to be out there and making sure that, you know, if they can't pay the taxes, regardless, never less than 15% or 20% if it goes higher. So we will continue to ask questions and make sure that our taxpayers also get their word input in.
I completely agree, Mayor Pro Tem. I think that's a very wise insight, and he's absolutely correct. The cap on the amount, and again, we're governed by the Texas Property Tax Code. We can only charge up to 20% in attorney's fees. We have historically charged the city 15%. That's where we're at, and that's the industry standard. Now, again, I don't want to go off course, but this is kind of a slippery slope, and it's almost difficult. I wish there was a way where we could do the work free of charge, so to speak, to the taxpayers, but the problem, if we lower that penalty, then there's an argument to be made that if there's no penalty for paying late, then everyone's going to want to pay late. So that we have to strike that balance. Again, the state legislature has allowed us to charge up to 20% in attorney's fees, and there are some municipalities that do charge 20%. We feel 15% is a fair amount. It's the industry average, and two, we don't want to make it to where it's basically there's no penalty for paying late. If that's the case again, then your taxpayers are going to choose not to pay on time. So we're trying to find that balance, and I think where we're at, 15%, it's what the previous firm was charging, so there was no savings to your taxpayers at that time, and it's what we're charging today.
Any other questions for Mr. Cano? If not, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioner.
Appreciate it.
Have a
Yes,
nice
sir.
evening.
The next item, Mayor, Commissioners, proclamation proclaiming October 31st, 2018 as a Girl Scout Day. Do we have anybody representing? Ms. Diana, do we have anybody here representing the Girl Scouts? No? Okay. Want to go to the next one? But you had the proclamation. Okay. The next item, presentation of departmental reports, Department of Planning and Zoning, Department of Parks and Recreation, San Juan Memorial Library, Department of Sanitation, Finance Department, Fire Department, Utilities Department, Police Department, and Municipal Court. Everybody's here available. Should you have any questions?
Any
You have any?
questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Question for water. I know we have a new planning and zoning director, or Mr. Arjona, maybe one of you can answer. As far as the pavement improvement projects, it's, on the report it says it's 15% complete, and it's supposed to be complete by the fall of this year, which was.
No, it's a
Where-
typo.
That's a typo?
Yes, sir.
Do you know
should
what
be like
percentage
around-
is done?
90 to 95%.
90 to 95?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it kind of worried me there.
Yes,
It
no,
said
it's a
15%.
typo.
I was like, how much more? Huh? No, but now it says 50. Yeah. The next question for Parks and Recreation, Mr. Willingham. The Red Ribbon Parade is coming up.
Yes.
Are we partaking in that parade as far as the commission, do you know? Because we didn't receive,
I will, the city of FAR is handling it. It's their turn to handle it this year. So I'll make sure, we'll follow up with them in the morning. And if we need to do it, we'll make sure to get that invitation out. It's this Saturday, yes.
What's the time, Mr. Willingham?
I believe it starts at 9 a.m.
9 a.m.?
We'll get all of you the
Details,
proper information, the
please.
details, yes.
for the library department, Ms. Sassin, the study rooms, are they being utilized already, or are they still shut down? Only one? What's the status on the second one? What are we waiting for?
On that one, Commissioner, I can probably answer that. I know we're getting some price quotes on that, so that we can clean and desanitize. It had some mold.
Okay.
And I know that we've gotten some price quotes. We're waiting for the insurance, the TML, to give us a directive as to do we proceed, do we get some price quotes. I know currently Mr. Jaime is getting price quotes. I don't know if you got any price quotes lately so that we can present them. I know that we can probably go ahead and repair whatever the repair needs to be, and then maybe get reimbursed through TML at the time. Mr. Jaime?
Time started, the quotes for the repairs to the roof and for the remediation of the mold were provided to the attorney from Ramon Garcia's office, so he could review and take into consideration with the experts that he said he's already had come and inspect the library. So I've been waiting for a response from him.
Now, on the roof repairs.
The roof repairs.
sir.
Now, as far as the computers and the computer lab, are they up and running already?
Yes, one of the things that we did with I came over and spoke to Mrs. Sin, since it wasn't raining anymore, but now we got some drizzle.
I know.
We placed some more computers inside the computer room so that the patrons can come in and utilize them. We did facilitate some on the outside, so that, how many are they missing, 6 or 8, 10, 8 computers the patrons can use outside of that computer room. However, there were some that they started utilizing inside that the computer room, I guess.
Now, I know I had brought up, maybe at the beginning of the year, regarding the fee for the copies, and it was gonna be looked into.
Yes, sir.
I know we're charging 25 cents per copy for our students, and we were gonna try and lower that fee. Where are we at? The maximum or the minimum?
No, the maximum, the minimum is 10 cents.
10 cents.
Yeah, but the maximum is 15 cents.
Okay,
But this one was
so,
agreed upon in an ordinance.
right. And I remember that, but what do we have to do to amend that? Who needs to put it on the agenda?
Well, we need to put it in the agenda and bring it back with the different
Okay.
Proposals,
Right.
so that we can amend the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because I believe the state charges 15 cents, correct? The normal, yeah, okay. The state charges 15 cents.
15 cents.
Yeah, state.
Sanitation Department, David or Arjona?
Yes, sir.
Now, I know with the garbage pickup, we're not providing the service to our commercial clients. Where are we at? What are we doing? Because I know at the campus that I'm at, it was, according to our head custodian, it was only picked up once last week.
Yes, correct. Right now, we have one of the 2 commercial front loaders at the shop. In fact, they finally sent us the final quote today. We submitted in requisition and get a PO to get that fixed. Once they get the parts in, the total time will be about another week delay on that one until we get it back.
And so in the meantime, we're picking up once a week?
In the meantime, we're moving as fast as we can to pick them up. If we can, we try to pick up twice a week. Our priority is the schools, so we prioritize the schools first, and then we move on to the other commercial establishments. But we should have that second truck up and running by next week.
By next week?
Where are we at, Mr. Salinas, as far as with the brush?
With brush, we're still about behind, a month behind. This weather, of course, isn't helping in the alleys. That becomes a problem, so we fall behind in the alleys. And that's when we start getting the calls, because we go and do the stuff we can pick up from the street, and there's some neighborhoods that have streets on one side of the street, alleys on one side of the street, and some that don't. So we start getting the complaints because we went, picked up everything in front of the street and didn't get to the alleys. Fortunately, with the muddy conditions, it's hard to get in and out of some of these alleys. So we're still about a month behind. We're currently working in the northeast and in the southeast right now in 2 locations. The northeast, we're doing with the alleys. The southeast, we started doing the streets. So we're still about a month behind.
Now, as far as right-of-ways, also, how are we doing on that?
The right-of-ways, we're short on staff right now. We just got one more staff member. We currently advertise for the additional 4 that commission approved. So, actually, we submitted requisition. I don't know if they've been posted yet, but we did submit a requisition for the additional 4. So we're hoping to fill those positions as soon as possible, and then we can start catching up on that. And the Parks Department has been helping us as much as they can. Of course, they have their duties and responsibilities that they have to maintain as well. But we have been working together to try to catch up. We have been trying to focus on the main corridors, and then go from there off to the secondary corridors and continue from there. But normally we track right behind the brush or in front of the brush so they can get in and out of the alleys.
Any other questions?
Mr. Arjona,
Yes, sir.
can you check, see if there's the company that pick up brush, what would they charge us per load? And not that we want to, just for this coming month so we could catch up, and especially with the holidays coming and people wanting to fix their yards and be in the Christmas spirit. Maybe we have in our budget that we could, get so many loads picked up by outside vendors. And so we can have an idea, and if we have it in a budget, maybe that's something we could do just to help out and catch up. It's not, I guess it's not our residents' fault that we're behind, and I think so everybody wants their brush picked up.
And as a matter of fact, Commissioner, Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry, I have reached out to a couple of companies, and I'm just waiting on one proposal. Once I get it, I'll present it to you all, and then we'll take it from there. Because that's one of the things that we've been talking about, Mr. Salinas and I, about maybe assisting us in cleaning what the brush is, and, but we contacted those two companies. I'm only lacking one proposal.
Now, are we looking at a one-time sweep, or we're looking at a quarterly deal?
Well, for now, I think it's
Uh,
only a one-time.
I would say one-time
Okay.
sweep, and then we'll take it from there.
The brush is an issue.
Yes.
And it needs to be resolved. We've been, I know I've been harping on that for a while already, so.
Yes, sir.
yeah.
And we did solicit the proposal for the two brush trucks that you all put in the budget for this year. I should be getting those tomorrow. It will be a by-board quote, so they were sharpening their pencil this morning. I called them to verify. So as soon as I get those, I will bring it back to commission so we can get those two ordered, because it's going to take a while for them to construct them, because they put them together as we order them, because it's specialized equipment. So once I get those, I'll bring them to you all so we can get moving on those.
Maybe we can look at some cameras, see what would be the cost. We need to put some cameras where they're dumping, garbage that we shouldn't be dumping, especially like by Real Bank and other businesses or commercial businesses. And if we can afford that, or Chief, I don't know if we could, I don't see a tower, that we have a tower. Are those so expensive? Or can we get that by the money that you get sometimes from the?
That's a forfeiture?
Yeah, Mayor Protem, we're looking into it already, those watchtowers, as a matter of fact, with the military plus as well. But also, we can ask for a loaner from different agencies that maybe we can borrow one, and we can do that as well. I'll coordinate it with Mr. Salinas, see where he needs it at, and maybe we can do some prevention.
Even in a day.
Newer one is out en route right now. I would need to find out the exact date on that one. I don't know the exact year, but most of our units are the 2000 plus model. We do have a couple, the brush trucks themselves, the roll-up containers are the oldest ones. Those are in the late 90s, from 94 to 98. So in fact, one of them is in the shop. It went down today, so we're going to fall behind in the roll-off containers because we're getting diagnostic done. We have no idea how long it's, all we know is that something popped, and that's all the driver could tell us. We towed it to French Ellison. They're doing analysis. But that one's a 1994 model, so it's been around for a while. So we may have to either rebuild the engine on that one or add a new engine to it.
Like that's way over.
Yes, sir.
Have expense.
They've exceeded their lifespan, yes.
David, how are we doing with the Liberty Loop over there with the families about the sewer getting clogged up? Did you
Well,
all did anything? in
That
the meantime?
sewer line should have been fixed a week, actually the week we were at TML. It should have gotten taken care of, but I'll verify that tomorrow for sure. And of course, we're still looking at the I&I. We're starting to get a lot of infiltration with this rain coming in, and we'll continue to look at that and try to alleviate that additional inflow into the deal. But I'll verify on that sewer, but it should have gotten fixed 2 weeks ago, sir.
How about the one on Gonzalez Street, Mr. Salinas?
We've made contact with the family there, and we put the camera in the entire system there, trying to figure out why that family is the only one, because they're pretty much at the end of the system, which we can't figure out why them and nobody else along that system, because they'll be the last ones to get the deal. We did televise their service line and our main line, and everything appears to be constructed correctly. So we can't figure out why that one is the only issue. And we have something similar at Liberty Loop, but over Liberty Loop is two houses, and they're right across from each other. That's why we don't understand why this one, it's only that house. So the next thing is to have an engineer come out here and shoot the elevations of the system and see if that has to do something with the elevation at the main lift station there.
Any other questions? If not, before we move on, I'd just like to acknowledge Judge Mancias for being here this evening, sir. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Next item under appointments, consider appointment of the board members to the City of San Juan Beautiful Board. I think we have one current opening. Ms. Cavazos.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. In front of you, you have a list of the current members for the Keep San Juan Beautiful Board. It consists of 5 members serving a 2-year staggered term. As per the Keep San Juan Beautiful Board bylaws, if absent for more than 3 consecutive times, individuals shall automatically be dropped from membership. Also, along with that, you have 1 application for Mr. Ramirez. It's attached as part of your packet. And then I gave you 2 more additional applications, one for Mr. Juan Saldaña and Anthony Villanueva. Those are the only applications we received.
If I can make a motion, Mayor?
Good, sir.
Motion to appoint Robert Ramirez to the Keep San Juan Beautiful Board. No relation.
Robert Ramirez? Where's he at? Oh, right here. Now, before we move on that, you don't have whether the attendance of who's been making these meetings or not, or anything on these
No,
prior
sir.
appointments?
No, I do not.
You don't?
No, the purpose, or the reason why we have it under appointments is because Ms. Rodora Elizondo resigned, and she's no longer part of the board.
So Commissioner Ramirez made that in a motion for Mr. Robert Ramirez. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item on the public hearing and ordinances, hold a public hearing to solicit input from interested parties on the City of San Juan needs under the Urban County Program fiscal year 32. The year is 2019. Mr. Escobar is here to present us on that item.
This is for the County Work Plan 32, 2019. Basically, it's a requirement by Urban County to have a public hearing. The available funds are $295,584. There was 2 residents or organizations that came in earlier, Meals on Wheels and Nuestra Clínica. There's a list of activities in your packet. You'll see you could do street improvements, sewer improvements, public service needs. This has to be approved by mid-November, the work plan. So the next meeting, we're going to bring this back, and it's going to have the letters from the different organizations and the breakdown for streets.
Of what they're asking. And
Yes, what they're asking for. So this is just a public hearing. So if there's anybody else in the public that has any comments, they can do that at this time as well.
I'm going to go ahead and open up at 6:43 p.m. Is there anyone here for or against? For or against at 6:43 p.m.? Any questions from the members of the commission?
Normally, this is where we also do paving, like on some of the subdivisions that, like right now, last year's, we're doing the Coyle subdivision over here by I Road.
What is
This-
it, 12th, 13th Street?
Yeah,
Right? In that area?
you're right.
Usually includes administration from Urban County, streets,
Correct.
Nuestra Clínica, Meals on Wheels, the different ones. It depends what you guys decide. Yeah.
And we'll have a breakdown in next meeting.
They'll have the
or-
breakdown with the letters from the different organizations, and then a recommendation, I
So we
believe, from
can
the
make
city
some
manager.
adjustments if we need to.
Any other questions for Mr. Escobar? If not, I'm going to go ahead and close this at 6:44 p.m. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
I apologize for not introducing Mr. Robert Escobar. I thought I had done that at the
Yeah,
last
for the
meeting, but
record.
we didn't have a meeting where a TML. But Mr. Robert Escobar is our new zoning director.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Appreciate
coming
it.
on board.
Thank you.
The next item, Mayor Commissioners, is on the, conduct a public hearing for the Urban County Program Substantial Budget and Program Amendment for funding years 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2017. Mr. Escobar?
In the packet, you'll also see a breakdown. Basically, to do for Urban County, we have to have a public hearing, so that's what we're doing here today. We're combining 2014, 2015, 16, and 17, and there's a breakdown. It shows the 160, 165, the 103, 35, the $116,024.03, and the 207,585. So we're basically amending this to combine those together to get a total of $323,874, which we're going to use for street improvements. And you'll see the breakdown: 12th Street, 13th Street, Vio Hidalgo Street, Doe Street, and Coyle Drive. So that's what they're going to use the money for, and that's what this amendment's for.
And what Mr. Kovar is pretty much referring to is that these are surplus money from previous years. So in order for us to utilize these monies, we need to do public hearings so that these monies can come into the 2017 years. So this is surplus money that we're going to use at 2017 fiscal year.
So when would these bids go out? Next month, maybe?
It'll be, we did have a meeting with county, and they did a bid process. I believe it's these streets, but I need to verify that. But we're just getting the money together so that we can do more streets.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is under public hearing.
So when
Okay.
they bring this item after this public hearing, there'll be another action item, and then it'll actually
I
have
got
the streets and the budget and everything.
Okay, perfect. This time, I'm going to go ahead and open this up at 46 PM. Is there anyone here for or against? For or against? Any questions for Mr. Escobar at this time?
What were those streets again?
It's 12th Street from Veterans to Miguel Hidalgo Street, 13th Street from Veterans to Coyle Drive, Miguel Hidalgo from 13th Street to the end of the road, Doe Street, 13th to the end of the road, and Coyle Drive, 13th to the end of the road.
Coyle on this other project that was going to start with Urban County in 2019, no? On this? No, Coyle.
Oil runs this way and then also continues on the other side.
Okay, so we're doing the other Coyle anyhow.
Yeah, it's Coyle, the one south of Sam Houston.
All right.
Yeah, because the one north of Sam Houston's already paved. It's what, yeah, it's been paved for many years. So now the Doe Street is the one right here, right off of 7th Street. If I'm correct, right?
Yeah.
Still getting familiar with it.
We could make a map for the next meeting if you'd like to see them also. Yeah.
That way we can post it on the, online and.
We should have it already. The
Yeah,
last time that we presented.
there's some maps posted online.
Mr.
but-
Salinas, you know where Doe Street is? It's the one off of 7th?
Cole's not part of this project, sir. Cole will be, we're proposing it to be in the next bond issuance, and the deal. Cole, C-O-L-E, is one of the, that's the one he's talking right off of 7th. But Coyle is in this project. This is the one that's going to be advertised here in November. So this project is the one that was granted to Perez Consulting. So their design is about 90% right now. We had the meeting with Urban County last week. So advertisement for the first phase, for the first project is November, I believe November 8th. And then we have a pre-bid conference, and then the second advertisement, and then it should go out for bid and bid opening in towards the end of November.
Sounds good. Any
But
questions?
what this money does allow us to either add additional streets or make sure we have no money to finish this project, because we are looking at possible replacing some curbs and gutters in there that are damaged. One of the things we were also looking at is possibly adding additional drainage inlets on this project or the next project that's coming around on the next Urban County project, which includes Mayfair, Shuford, and Taylor. Yes, Taylor. Correct.
Any other questions? If not, I'm going to go ahead and close this at 6:49 PM. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Here, Commissioners, the next item under Section 7, Contractuals and Resolutions. You can see item A, B, and C, they relate to the potential issuance of certificates of obligation for street, curb, and gutter improvements and the construction of City Hall. The City Financial Advisor, Mr. Chris Vela, whom is here with us, will present the plan of finance and the resolution in item A, which will authorize Mr. Vela to cooperate with the bond council and the city staff to proceed with the issuance of the certificates of obligation. If I can read item B, it's a reimbursement resolution that would enable the city to reimburse from the proceeds of the certificates of obligation any prior or future expenditures made from the city's general fund relating to the street and city hall projects. Item C is a resolution establishing the city's intent to issue the certificates and authorizing city staff to publish a notice in the local newspaper pursuant to state law. The resolution is necessary, is the first step towards the sale of the certificates of obligations, hopefully taking place November 27th. Mr. Chris Vela is here that will present us on that plan of finance. Mr. Vela?
Mayor, members of the City Commission, staff, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris Vela with Hilltop Securities, Financial Advisors to the City of San Juan. I'll direct, I don't know if you have it overhead. Do you have the presentation overhead? Let's proceed to Plan of Finance on page 3. As always, we start out with a Plan of Finance. The City of San Juan analyzed new debt capacity to finance improvements and to City Hall, including furniture and fixtures, and street paving, reconstruction improvements, and any other related improvements. The new debt capacity can be obtained through growth in the city's taxable assessed valuation and the use of available debt service fund balance. The city's audited debt service fund balance as of 9/30 is $592,770. Using conservative assumptions, the city has debt capacity for approximately $3 million in projects funds at no property tax rate increases. On the following page, the city will issue tax-exempt combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation. These certificates, the not-to-exceed amount for the certificates in the notice of intent will be $3,300,000. This plan of finance shows $3,100,000 certificates of obligation for $3 million net after financing costs for City Hall and street projects. If interest rates end up lower than estimated in this plan of finance, the city will increase the size of the certificates of obligation up to not to exceed an amount of $3,300,000. So it's a safe not to exceed number. The certificates will be supported by city's INS property tax. No INS tax rate impact is expected by this issuance. The certificates will be issued as bank qualified tax exempt obligations for lower interest rates, fixed interest costs, fixed interest rates throughout the life, and bank qualified means that you issued under $10 million in any calendar year, and the purchasers get special IRS considerations, and the interest savings are passed on to the city. The negotiated bond sale through the selection and appointment of an underwriter is part of the plan of finance. Interest will be payable semi-annually on February 15th and August 15th, beginning on August 15th of 2019. Principal will be payable February the 15th, beginning February 15th of 20 and through 38. Moving on to page 6, the bond buyers index. The current is a 437, the 20-year average is a 446, the 20-year max is a 609, and the 20-year minimum is a 2.80. Obviously, there's been some increases from the Federal Market Open Committee and on the Fed funds rate that have translated into higher interest rates across the board. Page 8. These are the preliminary cash flows, starting with, on the left, with column B, which is your net taxable assessed valuation. At the beginning of the year of 9/33, I want to point out that we're using on column C, no growth, it's 0 across from day one till the end. The INS tax rate, which is the same INS tax rate that we have today. INS tax collections at 93% collection rate. 22% of the frozen levy amount. Total INS collections budgeted, less INS tax-supported debt service, and column I is the amount that's available to assist in the repayment of the new debt, or the $3,100,000. So your new estimated INS, column M, and then column N is where we borrow from the INS fund balance to make the difference between column I and column N. And then you start out with the beginning fund balance, which was audited number 592,770 as of 9/30 of 17, and then the ending fund balance. As you can see, there's 1 year there that it's a little gets a little tricky, but notice that there's no increases in assessed valuation, and it's all structured to, around the existing debt, and the new debt is structured around that debt as well. On page 10, next steps and schedule of events. Assuming the city commission directs staff and consultants to implement the 18 plan of finance, the city commission considers and approves a reimbursement resolution and a resolution authorizing the publication of notice of intent to issue the certificates, including the not-to-exceed number. Remember that your reimbursement resolution is simply a resolution that allows you to spend and reimburse if you use city monies from bond proceeds or certificate proceeds, I should say. First publication, second publication, we would come back with a pricing on November the 27th, at which time the city would consider approval. The Attorney General approves the sale, and we would close around about the middle of December of 12/19, and of course, the first is interest payment and the first principal payment that I mentioned. And since this transaction on page 11 is a negotiated sale, these are the list of the underwriters with experience at the city that have done transactions for the city in the past, starting with 210 and 14, and then 15 series, and then the latest series that were done by Frost Bank in both 16 and 17. You obviously can, those are the underwriters that have done. You can choose whichever one you want. We're fine with any of them. And it would only take one underwriter. We could possibly accommodate two, but since it's such a small issue, it would not be very beneficial to the city to do that.
So which one do you work with more often?
And RBC. Any questions?
That was my question to you. I don't know, anyone else has questions for Mr. Vela? But at this point, we don't have to, it'll be down the line, but we'll select the underwriter.
We would need to select the underwriter tonight.
Tonight?
We could proceed to contact them and include them in the offering documents. And I believe they are also reflected in the resolutions that were prepared by bond counsel. Obviously, not the selection, but just the appointment.
What kind of rating are our standards right now, our rating for the city? A, double A, or
It's a single A.
single A?
Typically, what we do with your credit is we also pursue bond insurance, assuming that that would be advantageous to the city in terms of the premium that's paid. Mathematical calculation is done. If it's advantageous to the city, we utilize it. If not, we sell on its own merit. It just depends on the market and the benefit.
By going for this 3 million, it was not going to change standards?
Should not.
Should not. We need to approve it now with, so I'll make a motion to approve with the underwriter as Frost Bank. Second.
It's been second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
The next item, item B, as I read before, consideration approval resolution relating to establishing the city's intention to reimburse itself for the prior lawful expenditures of the funds relating to constructing various city improvements from the proceeds of tax-exempt obligations to be issued by the city for authorized purposes and authorizing other matters in incident and related thereto and providing an effective date. On item B.
Questions at this time? Not, is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item C as well, consideration approval of a resolution by the City Commission of the City of San Juan, Texas, authorizing and approving publication of notice of intention to issue certificates of obligation complying with the requirements contained in Securities and Exchange Commission Rule 15C2-12 and providing an effective date.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item under item D, consider selecting and authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract agreement for audit services for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2018. Mr. Leroy?
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
We did have, on October 17, we did have proposals come in from Carr, Greggins, and Ingram at 48,500, and Garcia and Peña at 24,600. At this time,
Say the amounts again, please.
Yeah, I could, yes.
Carr, Griggs, and Ingram for 48,005, Garcia and Peña for 24,600.
Garcia Peña, is that the gentleman we used?
That's the last year's
The same?
auditor, yes.
Okay. Make a motion to contract Garcia Peña.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The next item is under discussion and possible action on the following matters: discussion and possible action to select a provider to update the risk management plans for the Department of Utilities and authorize the city manager to execute any and all related documents. Mr. Salinas.
Good evening, Mayor. Staff advertised RFQ 1871-08 on July 18th and July 25th, 2018. On Wednesday, August 1 of 2018, we did receive 2 responses to the request for qualifications from Municipal H2O from Little Rock, Arkansas, and Rob Kistner from McAllen, Texas. We did review the statement of qualifications. We did find both firms to be well qualified to do the RMP as required by the Clean Air Act through the EPA. And we will be making a recommendation on one of the 2 entities. Unfortunately, one of the entities had a previous commitment, so they could not be able to make the meeting. They did send a letter. I believe it was handed out to you all by Mr. Jaime. We do, however, have a representative from Rob Kistner in the room, Mr. Isidro Arjona. We did advise them that they would have up to 5 minutes to do oral presentation. If the commission did wish to see an oral presentation.
Sure.
Sure?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you don't mind, I'd like to present the letter first, to cover the letter first, and have Mr. Mr. Arjona wait over in the library while we cover this, just as a goodwill to Municipal H2O for submitting the letter.
Okay.
Just for the record, Mr. Arjona is no relation with.
No?
All right. Apologize for that. The library's locked. Didn't realize it was closed already. But like I said, we did review both of the statement of qualification.
Real quick, Mr. Salinas.
Yes.
I was discussing with legal counsel that I do have family members that are employed with RABA, so I'm gonna
Abstain?
avoid any potential conflict of interest, and I'm gonna step out.
So you're going to abstain. Well, the reason, were you able to review the packet by any chance?
I haven't.
Yes, I'm directing the question to the council.
In regards to RABA?
No, to Municipal H2O?
No.
Because
No,
we
I'm just-
we inadvertently published it with their fee in the packet. No, it's in there. And Raba's is not. It was supposed to be a statement of qualification. They did put their fee, what they're planning to charge us for this project. So that's kind of why I wanted to speak to you all before that, because I don't know if that's going to be an unfair advantage to Raba. We decide to proceed with them tonight. Because they would have, if they downloaded the packet off the internet, they would have seen their fees. Municipal H2O's fees are in the packet.
But you didn't have this then before?
It's in the packet.
No, the municipal.
This is the, yeah, we did, but this is the letter they sent to let us know that they weren't going to be here at the meeting, but the packet has their fees in it.
And Robbins, you don't have.
Robbins does not, because it was supposed to be a statement of.
Something to you
Ye-
at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay, we're
fine.
good?
That-
Okay.
That doesn't matter.
All right.
You received them at the same time.
Correct, yes, we opened them
You
at the same
didn't
time.
allow them to adjust either one after
Correct,
that. Yeah.
correct. I just wanted to make sure that wasn't going to be an unfair advantage to either one of the deals. The letter pretty much states, in thanking us for the opportunity, of course, they do, unfortunately, could not make this commitment. They had been down here last week in the Rio Grande Valley doing some training at another city. Our staff did approach. This firm is very well qualified. This is all they do. They do nothing else. Of course, they would have been, they wanted to be here, they just couldn't make it. So if you have any questions on this firm, they do, I am familiar with one of the projects that they do work down in the valley, which is Agua Suds. They do their RMPs for it, and right now, the gentleman who was the general manager at the time that they were doing the work at Agua Sud currently is employed by the city at our water plant.
Do they have an office here locally?
No, sir, they do not. They
work out of?
they work out of their office in Arkansas, sir. Any questions? No? All right. Then if you're ready, I'd like to have Rob come in.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Commissioners. For the record, my name is Isidoro Arjona. I'm the Senior Vice President in charge of Raba Kisner Consultants here in the Rio Grande Valley. I'm pleased to present to you our qualifications to serve the City of San Juan with the EPA Risk Management Plan. Basically, our company has been in the valley for about 27 years, and we have had the privilege of serving the City of San Juan primarily with geotechnical and materials testing services. We do have an environmental division that has the expertise to prepare the EPA risk management plan. And I asked Mr. Jaime to help me provide you with a brief handout that talks about some of the services that we offer. Basically, we would prepare this risk management plan by preparing a process safety management and a risk management plan programs for the city wastewater treatment plants. And there's a series of steps that are required from a chemical inventory assessment, determining the hypothetical release modeling, assessing the worst case scenarios and alternative release scenarios, going through your process analysis, process hazard analysis, hot work permits, looking at the mechanical integrity of the equipment that's used and that's covered under this risk management plan, assessing any contractors that work for the city to make sure that they abide by the requirements of your risk management plan, performing compliance audits, making sure that there's employee participation, and of course, emergency response planning. Your employees would be only responsible for incidental minor risks. There would be a need for emergency response professionals to come in the event of a major hazard. These would all be submitted to the EPA through the RMP eSubmit website, and it would have to be updated every 5 years. The advantage that we have, I'll be honest with you, our professionals who work on this type of studies are based in Houston, but we have a local office with local environmental professionals that can provide that local follow-up for any requirements and updates to your plan. I'll be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Where's your local office here?
It's in McAllen. We have 2 offices in the valley, one in McAllen and the other in Brownsville.
In Brownsville.
Mhm.
What other cities have you done this kind of plan for?
Pardon?
What other cities have you implemented this kind of plan?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Commissioner. I don't personally work on these types of plans. I work primarily on geotechnical projects and construction materials. Our environmental professional who will work on this one couldn't be here today because of conflicts. I would have to ask him and reply to you with that question. He's based in Houston. Mhm.
You would need him, he would be pretty much the next day here, right?
Yes, we would make him available, and we have a resident local environmental professional who would also be available for any follow-up.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So at this time, we'll just, any recommendations?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Robert Kirshner. Second.
There's a motion, there's been second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
The next item, Mayor Commissioners, is consideration and appropriate action to ratify collective bargaining labor agreement between the San Juan Professional Firefighter Association, IAFF Local Number 4697 in the city of San Juan, Texas, to be effective October 1st, 2018. We have Ms. Rebecca Hayward here with us from the Civil Service Attorney. They can answer, and before you, you have the CBA in the packet. So, Ms. Rebecca?
Hi, yes, Rebecca Hayward here, one of your civil service attorneys, and I, along with the fire department, the union representatives, and along with the city manager and Ms. Adele in finance and on our city team, we basically hashed out this agreement before you. This is the very first year that y'all are collective bargaining for your police and fire, and we were able to come to a deal, and this has already been ratified by the union. It's gone to a vote. They have accepted it, and so the last and final thing that needs to be done is that it be ratified by the city council. If you have the collective bargaining agreement in front of you, and then also you should have the pay table. So it breaks down the base pay increases, which would be separate and apart from the civilians. You guys are already a civil service city, so your police and fire are governed under 143 Texas Local Government Code. Now that the citizens had voted to be collective bargaining, we have the added layer of 174 Texas Local Government Code that basically outlines the rules and structures in which we can create this document. Since it's the first year of the contract, we've basically kept it as status quo as possible. Most of the articles in the contract before you either mirror your personnel policy, or it's just a little added extra that because it's required under 174 or under 143. So really, not much has changed. It may grow organically over time, but since it's your first year here with this new contract, it's very much just a status quo of what's currently in place. As far as the base pay, our finance folks and the city manager, this is all within what y'all can afford and have budgeted for. So it's not out of the norm of what other departments have done. And the staff's recommendation is that you guys approve this contract. Any questions for me?
This is just for the fire department right now, right?
It's just for the fire department right now.
And I asked that question when you were saying police and fire, but this is only for the fire department.
This is only for the fire.
If I may.
Go ahead.
sir.
Like you said, it's the first time for both of us. So does this address the high turnover rate that we currently have in that department?
Well, we are trying to address that with the pay increases. So that's usually the sticking point with many of our cities who are collective bargaining, is the base pay.
Okay.
So we've tried to address that in the pay table before you to encourage promotions, to encourage just basically sticking around. So we try to address that. Obviously, we can't keep people here against their will,
Right.
but we definitely encourage that with some incentives there in the contract, which mainly is included in the pay.
So how often do we go back to the drawing board? Is it like a 2-year?
It, currently, right now, it's a 2-year contract. However, the next time we go to the table to negotiate, we can make it a 3-year contract, a 2-year contract, a 1-year contract, even all the way up to 4 years. But since, you just never know how the economy might
Correct,
be,
correct.
so we figured a safe route to go this time around would just be a 2-year contract.
Okay. So, Mr. Arjona, did you pretty much dissect everything?
Pretty much, the whole team, like Ms. Hayward was saying, we kind of reviewed it with the civil.
So now, are the firefighters, are they on board with this? Everyone is?
As far as a union
Yeah,
representative?
exactly.
Yes.
Yes, the union's taken it to their, and they voted on it, and and I don't know.
I just want to make
the
sure,
numbers,
because
but it passed.
the last thing I want is for someone to come back and say, you know what, I wasn't aware of this and this and this.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right, absolutely.
So, okay.
Make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Been a motion, it's been second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
The next item is discussion and possible action to ratify Hidalgo County Elections Department request for early voting election day polling locations of Fire Station Number 2 on 2301 North Raul Longoria, San Juan, Texas 78589 for the primary runoff, and general elections. This-
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item, discussion and possible action regarding the appointment of a municipal court judge pursuant to Article 4, Administrative Department, Section 4.06, Municipal Court of the City Charter. Mayor Commissioner, this is an item that was placed here in light of adding additional court enforcement personnel. One of the things that I'm looking into is, instead of overwhelming our judges, maybe appoint another judge for that particular role only. And maybe if in the future that if it goes through, if there's another judge here, maybe instead of seeking somewhere else when the judge is not available for any court hearing or any arraignment or anything like that, instead of bringing somebody from the outside, maybe we can count on this gentleman. Now, this is something that I'd like to get started, because I know that we already advertised for the court enforcement officers, personnel, and we should be starting interviewing by the end of this week, if not next week. So I want to get him in line now. I'm asking for the recommendation, on this item, so that by the time we hire the new staff, we start doing the citations, maybe that'll be enough, so that we can bring somebody on board and help them out.
How many code enforcers are we bringing in?
Just one, sir.
One? Okay.
Now,
So that would give us, what, 3 total?
3 total.
So we
Now,
have-
this code enforcement officer is going to be in charge only, of course, other duties, but also the main responsibility is going to be for the brush and trash.
Qualifications, yes.
We need to advertise that.
One question I have, I know we're looking at budgets. Do we have a budget for it?
Well, and that's the other thing, one of the things that I'm looking and contemplating is the idea of maybe on a contractual basis.
Like a contractual basis, like
In
on
the
a
sense-
6-month base, or?
No, in the sense that so many citations, will get some of that money to pay the judge.
Now, I know I had brought this up a while back, Arjona, and I don't know if our court has the information as far as how many citations are given out on a monthly base, and how much money have we received on that. Do you have anything of that, Ms. Enriquez?
The total for this month?
For citations?
September,
Yes, please.
the total for September, 208 for this September.
208.
That was,
Code enforcement? Or, no, that was
The total.
citations. Okay.
208, but they don't all go before the judge. No. Right.
And do you have an amount?
Month, we collected
29,000 in citations. 214 with 23 cents.
No, it's okay. Just that your appointment would be part-time just to handle, mainly it's code enforcers, citations, right? And then if the judge needs
On a
help
need-
and arrangements on holidays or stuff that he,
On a need basis, yes.
Said contract, right? Basis, pretty much.
Just for clarification, legal counsel, you mentioned that it has to be posted. We have to seek RF.
You need to seek resumes, like their qualifications, so it just have to be posted.
Now,
Okay, and when it's posted, what is gonna be posted? If, like, do you have a job description or?
I don't have one yet, but I'm gonna be consulting with the attorneys.
Okay,
And then at that point, once we get them in, we'll bring them before an executive session so you all can interview them. And you'll make a selection at that point.
you know more or less what, the timetable, how long is it gonna take for you all to iron
I wanna
those
say
details?
between maybe 2 months, no more than 3.
3 months? Before you advertise?
Or is this?
Or the whole process itself, 3 months?
No, I would like to get started now so that when we get the code enforcement in,
Mhm.
this is barely going out, and I don't know how long it's gonna take for us to get some responses. And then after that, the process may take about maybe a couple of months. And then once we have enough citations that we see that they're coming in, we'll interview and hire this person.
That's going to be very important to make sure that we got the proper data, so we can sustain another judge. And I don't think we have that data right now, but it'd be good still to look into it, see where we're going to go end up with this. Because obviously, we don't have any in the
Have any data as
budget.
far as-
So now we're going to be working on citations, and we're going to give by percentage. So basically, he's going to be paid based on citations?
That'll be my recommendation at this point.
And the 2 current municipal judges, how are they getting paid?
Through the budget.
Salary?
Just salary? Regardless of the number of,
Yes, my understanding is regardless.
Those judges cover citations, court arraignments, and search warrants, and anything else, right? Correct, Chief?
so the motion will be to approve the,
not the appointment?
no.
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 I make a motion to approve the position.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye?
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails.
Under consent agenda, Mayor Commissioners, we have the budget expenditure report for August 2018, the investment report, September 2018, and we have the monthly collection report, September 2018.
This time, is there, under consent agenda, anything that needs to be modified or amend at this time? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a sec- All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting has been adjourned at 7:24 PM.
I don't know.